Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I am here with world-renowned guest and Tikkun healer extraordinaire, Daniel Naor.
Applause, please.
Yes.
Please. We should have an applause button.
We used to have applause. I don't know if you remember.
What's happening?
Like in 2017, we had an applause button.
We should get it back.
Bring back the applause
but
button.
only when I am on the show.
Okay, noted. Everyone noted. Daniel is actually here with his comedic self because today we're talking about we're talking about how
his name is Franz.
And does he have a brother named Hans who's going to pump you up?
Yes.
Something like that. So we're actually talking about...
I'll keep interrupting you today if it's okay.
I don't mind it.
No permission
Our
asked.
Listeners might mind because we're never going to start the podcast if we keep doing that. But it's good that we're starting with laughter because today's episode is all about bringing laughter and lightness to our spiritual path. This week we have the opportunity to draw what the Kabbalists call mercy to our process, to our journey. And one of the most powerful tools for bringing mercy or lightness to the process is humor, laughter, and joy. And we're going to talk about all the different ways that we can do that and why comedy is such a powerful spiritual tool.
Can you say that with a smile on your face?
Yes, I can, but not everybody watches. Okay, but I guess
but
you can
they can feel it.
No, they can hear me smiling. I'm smiling now. I am showing all of my teeth.
Yeah, we cannot talk about humor like we're going to talk about humor today.
Well,
it sounds like sadness from Inside Out. Me, not you.
Not me, of course not. So every week, Weekly Energy Boost provides a 7-day spiritual weather forecast where we provide our listeners with the most powerful and practical tools to navigate the coming 7 days through gleaning over and around and within the teachings of Kabbalah. We pick out not only powerful tools and concepts to share, but also experiences from our own journeys as well as the journeys of students that we've worked with over the years so that you have wisdom and tools you can use any day of the week, any week of the year. And this is a topic that I don't think we've ever even gotten close to talking about. So it's very exciting for me to talk about something we've never talked about before. And of course, exciting. Daniel has, I think I've shared before on the podcast that prior to finding Kabbalah, I was sure that I would have a career in music theater. And Daniel has some performance background himself. So there is a lot to creativity and creating scenarios, I think, being inventive or, like you would say, improvisation that can help us better understand our challenges, our blockages, different things that we can do outside of the box to wrestle with our challenges. But at the same time, one of the things that the Kabbalists teach, and I remember reading this in the writings of Rav Ashlag specifically, is that if your spiritual work feels heavy, you're not doing it right.
That's right.
So I hope that today's episode, we can help everybody lighten up a little bit and feel that the burden is not what they thought it was, and to move through their work with more light with a capital L and also light with a lowercase l.
Can I start with a little story and a joke?
I thought you were going to ask if you can tell a joke.
Just popped into my mind.
Both.
It's a story / funny. And it also sets the tone for today, and I can share a little bit about my background as well and why it's so important for me, and hopefully it can inspire others to adopt that lightness and humor, because we all have it. We just need to focus on it so we can actually make use of it, but it's available to us. So share with you a story and why also for many of the Kabbalists, humor was very, very important. Actually, as a matter of fact, many of the Kabbalists started their study when they got together with a joke, because they knew that their study reveals more light when it's with a light heart. and when it's with joy. So there's this Kabbalist, his name is of Naftali of Rufshitz, and he was known for being a jokester. Always making jokes, always making fun of everything, to an extreme degree that his teacher actually got annoyed by that. And in one of the prayers and connections, his teacher was about to start leading the prayer service, and he turned around and he knew that, and he had a feeling, in a sense, that his students, Naftali of Rufshitz, will start to make fun and disturb the connection. And he said, please promise me, and with all seriousness, his teacher telling him, please promise me, I want you to commit to not joking around for 1 year. No more jokes. And his student is like, yes, absolutely. I promise, no jokes. For whole year, no jokes. And so he's turning around, his teacher praying with passion and quiet, but passionately. And suddenly he hears laughter behind him. And it's like in his mind, like, what's going on? Like, and then he finishes the prayer, turns around, and like the whole room is like laughing and loud. And he turns around to him in disappointment and said, like, didn't you promise me a whole year? You said a whole year. You committed a whole year. And Naftali of Rufshitz turned to his teacher and said, I'm so sorry. Your prayers were so long, I thought a year had passed.
There's a good one.
So, lightness, humor, I think you said it right, Elisheva. If we're on a spiritual path, and we're working on ourselves, and we become and our spiritual work makes us so serious, makes us feel heavier. The proof is in the pudding, like you said. Then there's something off about the way we're doing our spiritual work. And like they say, it's okay to take our work seriously, but it's a problem when we start to take ourselves so seriously. And I experience it on my own, and I keep on seeing it with people. And when I see it with people because I went through it, it's very important for me to get this point across, because we can imprison ourselves. And one of the biggest prison cell is adopting this mindset and the belief that the more serious I take myself, the more it means that I'm doing more and better work. And we get to choose. It's absolutely up to us. We get to choose in how we want to perceive our spiritual work. It can be through heaviness and grinding, or it can be in a lighter way. So to ask ourselves, what would it take for us to take it in a lighter way? Anything else? I want to give you an opportunity to.
No, I have to confess, I do struggle with taking myself too seriously, or sometimes feeling like the burden is beyond me. Like, and sometimes it serves a positive I use it constructively, because when I feel that way, it reminds me to ask the light for help and to reach out to others to, quote, share the burden. But at the same time, I know that the weight of what I bear, quote unquote, takes me out of the present. Mm-hmm. I'm not fully engaged in the world around me when I'm feeling the weight of my work.
Right.
So I would love for you to share ways that we can step out of that. I mean, I can tell you the only aspect of bringing humor to spiritual growth that I can speak from experience is, we probably talk in almost every episode or every other episode about the force of the opponent, that the opponent was a positive angel hired for a negative purpose, or to give us the opportunity to resist darkness, to give us an opportunity to overcome. And the heaviness of our spiritual work really comes from us taking the thoughts that come from that force too seriously. That the spiritual work is hard, that I'm never going to make it, that this is impossible, or I'm the worst person. We've talked many episodes about how that force shows up in our lives. But one of the neutralizers to that force is laughing at it.
Right. That
sometimes when you hear, like, again, I sat in a class last night and somebody was sharing that, when they get really immersed in the illusion of their opponent, they start to feel like they're the worst person. So I said to him in the class, "You're the worst person. I have been looking for you everywhere." Like, everyone thinks they're the worst person, but you're sure you're the worst. And so everybody was laughing at that moment. And then that laughter put a spotlight on what a ridiculous belief that is, right? So it helped him almost like loosen the chain around his burden of spiritual work, because he realized it is actually comical that he's been listening. That's his brand. I'm the worst person. How hysterical is it? And so I do often go to that, like, how ridiculous it is that I'm busy thinking this or worrying about this or obsessing over something. Like, how ridiculous it is that I give in so easily to my opponent.
Right. And I think it's just, the biggest thing is to become aware that we have this as a resource. We have humor on our toolkit, and we can use it as a tool, as a resource. And I think a lot of us are not aware on how effective and how powerful it is and how important it is, right? It literally says that, also bringing it back to Kabbalistic teachings, it says something interesting and weird. It says that the entire process, and we are like around this time now too, the entire process of what we read in the biblical story of the Israelites leaving Egypt, and we know the historical thing and the tragic way that they left, and it was with the 10 plagues, right? So there's a lot of hardships, and of course there are many Kabbalistic secrets around that story. But it says, one of the commentators mentioned that the entire story of the Israelites leaving Egypt, including all the drama and all the 10 plagues and everything, was for one purpose: to make fun, to make a joke out of Pharaoh. And it seems to be very awkward. And also the question, like, why do we need all of this only to make fun out of Pharaoh? Right? So, is the Kabbalists explain that Pharaoh is a code word. And the code word of Pharaoh, we have a Pharaoh inside of us. Pharaoh represents our ego. The part of us that thinks it's so important, so serious. And part of the job of the ego is take itself too serious, right? It says about Pharaoh that, and also a funny side story, that he wouldn't go to relieve himself in public. He would go secretly because...
he didn't want people to think he's human?
Exactly. He's a god. Right? And gods don't need to go to the bathroom, right? So that is the part of us also, need to be clear, that ego aspect inside of us, like thinks that we got it all together and we need to be perfect and we need to, be serious and perfect and perceive ourselves as perfect. Others need to perceive us as perfect. The ego doesn't leave much room for making mistakes, which is part of being human. So what was the whole process of this? Why does it say to make fun out of Pharaoh? Because Pharaoh, that ego, it's the big, big secret. You want to know what's the most effective way to release yourself from the chains and the prison of the ego is by making fun of it. The most effective way to not being controlled by the negative influence of our ego is by making fun of it, is by laughing at it. And because there are really these two pathways. There's a pathway of, okay, I'm going to start my spiritual work. Let me make a list. Wow, I have this type of ego, and I'm not worthy, and I'm not good enough, and I'm control freak, and I'm holding on to guilt, and I hold resentment. Okay, I have all this list, and now I'm going to work on it, right? And part of the trick of the opponent is that he said, oh yeah, go for it. You know what? The opponent makes us, and our ego makes us think like, go hard in it, work on it hard. And we don't even realize how along the way we disconnect more. Sometimes the harder we work on something with that approach on, I'm going to work on it, I'm going to take myself serious, and I'm going to work hard on it, we don't realize how it's counterproductive. And so what the Kabbalah is teaching us is a much more effective way of changing is integrate this tool, this element of lightness. Yes, keep your eyes on the prize. You're aware of what you need to change, but do it with lightness. Make fun of it. Make the list. Look at this entire list and say, this is laughable. Like, this is really what I'm holding on to resentment. It's laughable. Laughable, why? Because I know that this is not the real me. It's not the real me. That's not all that I am. It's illusionary identity. And so when I laugh, I take away its power over me. The more I take it serious, I'm validating it and I'm giving it the sense of power and control over me.
That, I think, is the most powerful idea, that by laughing at it, I diffuse the weight, its power, the burden of it.
Right.
That, to me, because there's a voice while I'm listening to you, there's a voice in my head that says, but it's serious. This is my life's work. How can I make a joke out of it? But I think that part of the, in the beginning of the episode, when I said that if we take the spiritual work as something heavy, that we're doing something wrong, the goal that the Kabbalists teach of the having a practice, being mindful, having the spiritual community, all the different things that we teach, we talk about meditation and everything, is so that we will do the work wholeheartedly, that it will be something that is exciting and enjoyable, that we'll understand that our transformation is actually the greatest pleasure. But if it's the hardest work, isn't hard work the opposite of don't we go on vacation to get relief from hard work? So when you say that, it's like such a beautiful, it speaks so much to the way my attitude needs to change when it comes to the big ticket things, right? The smaller behaviors, I can laugh at them. Sometimes I find myself correcting people and wanting to be right. And then I'm like, oh my God, did I do that again? That's ridiculous. Like that I can really laugh at. But the lifelong things I'm working on for 30 years, it's not so funny.
Right.
But when you say that by laughing at it, we actually diminish or diffuse the weight of it, it makes me want to take it less seriously.
Right. And I think this is the biggest lie that we have sometimes as a subconscious belief, that the more serious I take myself, the more I'll advance spiritually, right? And this is a lie. This is a lie. This hidden belief that I have to take myself serious in order to progress and experience breakthroughs. And again, it's counterintuitive, right? But actually it's the opposite. The lighter I can be, the less serious I can take myself, not my spiritual work, but myself, the more productive I will become, the more better results I will see, right? So we want to be probably open to adapt this new mindset. For most of us, it's new. And I can share with you, personally for me, why this has been so intriguing, so important for me. Because I think by nature, there were always parts of me that were humorous, fun, light, playful, creative, intuitive. And interesting enough, funny enough, the moment in my life when I started to commit fully to my spiritual work by becoming a Kabbalah teacher when I was 20 years old, there was a part of me that, a false belief system that said, okay, now you're a Kabbalah teacher. Now you have to be serious. And unconsciously, without noticing, I pushed aside all these gifts that I had. And here and there maybe used it, but I really believe that in order to be taken serious, I have to be serious. And
I have to look at that. I may have adopted that as well, now that I'm thinking about it.
Right? Because it was, now I can look back and see it. It was 20 years ago. I said, okay, now, I'm this young guy, like now.
You have to grow up.
I have to grow up. And like, I'm working with people now. I'm coaching people now. I'm representing something very serious. I'm representing the wisdom of Kabbalah. It's very serious. It's a serious thing. So, and looking back now, I can see, one of the students once told me, is like, oh, you have this part of you, and then you have this other part of you that is like all serious, Daniel. And, people could feel it. People can feel when we're not ourselves completely, when we're putting on a mask, the hat of Mr. Serious, or the hat of Mr. Kabbalah teacher, or the hat of Mr. an expert in this or expert in that. Like, people feel actually distance, because all of us in our nature, our soul is by nature light. Our soul is by nature playful, right?
Well, even literally, there is no physical, our soul takes no physical space. It doesn't weigh anything.
Right.
So that quality of lightness should be, when we're expressing that lightness, that's our true essence.
Exactly.
The weight, the heaviness, the coldness belongs to our body alone.
Right.
And that's another deep teaching. I didn't think about it before, but it's like part of our transformation means releasing the heaviness of the body, giving it up, giving it up and replacing it with quickness, lightness, instant, running to do, share, grow, etc. And that lightness really comes from the idea that the soul doesn't weigh anything, doesn't take up space, isn't heavy. And I think it's a beautiful analogy to help us reconnect with our true essence is light.
Absolutely. So why not to bring all of that, come with all of that wherever I go, wherever I represent myself, right? But there are beliefs and hidden dynamics that are holding us back, that are holding us clinging to the seriousness, right? So for me, I remember, growing up in that time, it's at some point I realized what I felt I needed to give up in order to gain something else, worthiness or connecting with people to listen to me. And then I realized all these things that I've given up, they're actually distancing me from people, and they're making me actually less effective. So then I started to go on a journey of reclaiming all those gifts that I've put aside. And I allowed myself to also develop and to delve into different modalities and incorporate that into my spiritual work. So I don't know how many, I have different hats, okay? So most of the people know me as like, doing tikkun healing, going deep with people, belief system, family dynamics, and that's certainly part of what I do and I enjoy. But I have also a part of me that is very creative and playful. I think, most people don't know that, I used to rap before, and I used to freestyle. So I found a lot of creativity in like this easy and flow and just being in the moment and freestyling. And so after a while, I delved back into, I actually explored, I don't know how many people know that I'm actually certified as a laughter coach.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So because I
what
really
does that mean though?
It's really working with laughter as a tool.
Wow.
Working with laughter as a tool, how to integrate laughing as an actual tool in many areas and any area in our life. So here and there, you've seen me like
I have seen you use it in workshops and things like that. Yes,
yeah,
but I didn't realize it's a.
So that's the ways I'm using it today, just as icebreakers in different ways. But I had to give myself permission to do that, to see that it's important enough. Right? And to see and not to say, that's not important. You're a Kabbalah teacher. It's a waste of time, because that's what I told myself before. To give it enough importance to see no, and to have taken the time and the investment to actually do that, so that I can, because it's an essential part of my spiritual work that I can also put in service. So I learned a lot from that, and giving it time to invest in laughter, right? Which sounds like a silly thing, right? Like, come on, like laughter. It's important to learn how to laugh at ourselves.
Totally.
And then I took even more like improv classes, and I learned so much from these improv classes. I think it's one of the most spiritual things that you can do for yourself. It really teaches you how to be in the moment. It teaches you you're really forced to not to take yourself serious. You're forced to, you're put into position and play with interaction with other people, where you're forced to take a risk and know that most likely you're going to fail and look ridiculous. And this habit of like, I'm okay
risking ridiculousness.
Yeah, I'm okay with being ridiculous. I don't take myself that serious. That anything that I will do will break my self-esteem or embarrassment, or like, it's such an important quality to be able to laugh at yourself, because then you're less likely to afraid to make mistakes. You're more likely to take risks. You're more likely to explore and be creative and find new ways and new things, versus the seriousness, it shrinks us, right? And that's part of what the ego does. It's a narrow view. It's the body consciousness. It's like it shrinks us and it tries to keep everything under one roof, everything under control. Everything is like, okay, this is what it is, and that's it. And what are we missing out on when we take ourselves so serious? What could humor and laughing more at ourselves open ourselves up to?
Well, I read a number of years ago in a relationship book that I think the author is Dr. John Gottman. He has a whole center and organization dedicated to helping people have more enriching relationships. And this is before his fame and fortune and everything. He's amazing. And one of the tools that he gave in this book that I read was that when a couple is fighting, to be able to have like, I don't remember exactly how he called it, but almost like an escape route. That, like, let's say, for example, you and I, God forbid, we're fighting, and I look at you and I go, in the heat of the moment, you're red, your veins are coming out of your throat, and I can get you to laugh. It diffuses all of the negativity, all of the negative emotion, and brings us to a place of repair where we can laugh at the fact that we're taking the argument so seriously that, two people who love each other very much can be so vicious or have so much animosity or heat in the moment that they forget their love and they're busy being harsh.
Yeah.
To be able to cause laughter in that, he says it's one of the easiest and best ways to repair in a heated moment, because what are we laughing? Chances are, he also claims that 90% of the things that couples fight over aren't real. Right? It's like principles and, ridiculous details, minutia that just trigger something, and therefore it sparks a fight. So it's interesting that, even let's say 20, 30 years ago, he had this idea that by finding something to make the other person laugh, it would put all of the negative feelings to the side so that you can actually repair, and you can still deal with the issue, but our egos are no longer engaged. Yeah. And I feel like if we could, maybe there's a way that we can help our listeners interrupt their raging with their ego by finding a way to laugh in the midst of the reactive moment, and then diffuse it and take it for what it really is, which is just an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, it's a great tool, powerful tool. And also spiritually, also the power of laughter, what it does is that laughter is actually connected to drawing light from our perfected self and from the infinite realm, from the realm the Kabbalists call the Gemar HaTikun, which is connected to laughter. It says in one of the writings, it will be when the time when all chaos will finish and will end, because Kabbalistically there will come a time where all this illusionary aspect of separation and hatred, it will all come to finish. Chaos has an expiration date, according to the Kabbalists. And it says when we reach that day and that moment, that it will appear to us as if it was all one big dream. And it says that our mouths will be filled with laughter. So what is the Kabbalist hinting on? That laughter, they use this word specifically, that laughter is connected to the realm of the Gemar HaTikun, the finishing of the correction process of our soul, our completed and perfected self. So in essence, it's very powerful, right? So we can look at laughter from different points of view, right? Laughter as a tool, laughter as a diffuser, but it's so much more than that. Spiritually speaking, and if we're aware of that and conscious of that, then it's even more effective, because that's what's happening. Consciousness creates reality. If we are aware and bring into awareness that every time I laugh with this intent, I laugh with the intent of I'm laughing, and with this laughter, I'm literally pulling and drawing light from the perfected reality and from my perfected self into the now.
So powerful.
With every laughter. So whether we fake it or make it, whether it's real laughter, but what matters is that intention. That there's so much more to it, right? It gives it so much more
power
and gravity, right? That my intent, I'm awakening laughter. And even if it's something silly, even if it's watching, it doesn't matter what kind of laughter, whether you initiate it or it comes naturally, have in the back of your mind, I'm laughing, I'm enjoying this now, but I'm also aware that I'm drawing light from a very, very high place, a supernal place. It's a parallel universe that exists, that in which the world is already perfect and I am perfect. And I'm bringing this energy into the now. And I think that's why unconsciously, we don't even know why, but that's why we feel laughter is such a delightful thing and beautiful thing, because it has a spark from the infinite realm. So it's another perspective in how to be more mindful with and more intentional with laughter.
You think that there's ever an inappropriate use of laughter?
Yeah, I think, sometimes, sarcasm, certain degrees of it, can be passive aggressive. I think it's apropos, like, I don't know why this whole week was about, like, I had opportunities to practice my German a little bit, which was also part of which I put aside. So it just dawned on me right now that only in German, I think there is a specific word for laughing or being happy for someone else's
Schadenfreude.
Yeah, misfortune. Right?
Right.
Schadenfreude. So that type of laughter and joy is a destructive one, right? Because when we're happy for someone else's misery, that's obviously...
I think that sometimes, especially in the comedy world, a lot of the material that comedians use is at the expense of someone else. And sometimes it's even themselves, making fun of their culture, their heritage, their family dynamic, whatever. But I think one of the things that's tricky with that is that it can touch on painful, unresolved issues. And sometimes laughing at them is not, it doesn't come from a healthy place.
Well, I need to be mindful of it too, because Elisheva knows that I also have a passion for impressions and impersonating others. So I did experience sometimes, although there's a lot of people that laugh and it awakens laughter and people benefit from it. I've learned from that too. Sometimes there were people that came up to me and said, like, maybe you can tone it down a bit when it comes to my impersonation. You can do others, but when it comes to me, like, maybe tone it down a bit. But I needed to become more mindful and sensitive. Okay, how can I use it more deliberately and responsibly? So I learned that certain people don't like to be imitated, especially in front of a crowd. Maybe it's good for their ego, but it's still painful for them. So I need to respect that too. So yeah, we need to be sensitive. We can be sensitive to that at the same time.
And do you think, or maybe you have some recommendation or experience to share with us? I've been in, well, I can share maybe with the wider audience some context for this. I've recommended this tool to individuals and couples for long time, is to have a conversation with your partner about what can help you reconnect. Meaning, when you're upset about something, in Kabbalah we learned that often our opponent gets us riled up, and we can do things that we're not proud of. We can say things that are hurtful and not really mean to hurt the other person, but just because we're so reactive, we lose touch with our higher self. So I've practiced this on my own to ask my husband, and my husband shares with me, what can help when we start to go there? What's something you can say or do that will remind me that I'm doing it? Like a safe word, kind of, but from reactive behaviors and feelings. So I told my husband, I don't know how many years ago, 15, 20 years ago, to look at me with puppy eyes and to tell me, I'm cute, you love me. And that's what happens. You can't help but laugh when you hear somebody say something like that. And immediately it makes me like, okay, whatever it is, it's not that bad, or it's not worth it, or, to find another way to communicate.
I might adopt that tool. I love it.
But so sometimes, I'll tell you from not only experience, but from sharing it with other people, sometimes our ego doesn't even want us to have that conversation, because what you're doing is you're being vulnerable with the other person and saying, I care so much, I don't want to get to that place with you anymore. So here's what you can do to help intercept the train before it leaves the station. So sometimes you don't even have the, I've recommended other playful, like sometimes, I don't know if it ever happened to anyone who's listening, but sometimes wives can be especially critical of their husbands, and they have
not in
your house. So we mean well, but our execution isn't always the best. So I found a really effective way to communicate. I learned this from a actually parenting book, that you take a Post-it note and you put a Post-it note on, let's say, your husband is in the bathroom or in the bedroom, and you put a Post-it note on the door so that they see it when they come in or out. Hey, I'm super stinky and you haven't spent much time with me lately. So what do you say you take me out to the dumpster? Love the garbage. So you're laughing. So that's a humorous way to make a request that's probably been made multiple times if it's already coming to a Post-it. Or like once it happened that I was bumping, I must have been pregnant. And the drawers were always open in our bathroom or our kitchen cabinets. Things were always open. And when you have a bigger body, you tend to bump into more things. So I sent an email that looked like a marketing email that said, like, did you know closing drawers and cabinets leads to a 95% increase in romance and love from your significant like I learned to use humor as a way to also diffuse, I'm feeling negative and I don't want to be nagging, critical, it's just like sometimes it's too much and I know I can go there. So I had to find ways to communicate in a light and loving way through, it's actually funny. You find a little note, you can't help but laugh, and then you go and take care of what you need to take care of. But when you're by yourself, this is my question. When you're by yourself, how do you catch yourself?
Yeah. I love that. First of all, you gave us so many good nuggets that I'm going to apply now. Hopefully, I'll remember, make some notes here. With ourselves, I think one of the things that we can do, and I'll give myself that advice too, because it's been a while since I've done it the last time. So it's a very good idea, Daniel, to have a journal, and it's the funny journal, and I call it Follow the Funny, right? And by the end of the day, you write down all the funny things that you've noticed throughout the day. And what it forces you to do is, first of all, paying attention to the funny, right? So if you know that by the end of the day, you want to at least come up with one thing to write, then you'll pay attention throughout the day to the funny things. And let me tell you this, just like it works with anything else, right? If I'll tell you, Elisheva, I want you to notice the entire day all of the red cars. By the end of the day, you'll given that you've driven or something or went outside, you would probably have noticed a couple of red cars. So if we put our mindset into, or the back of our mind, like, okay, I want to be open and aware of the humor throughout the day. Number one, you will catch it, you will see it, you'll bring it to your forefront, to your mind, and you'll write about it. And then after a week, after 2 weeks or 4 months, you review it. You get into the habit, or you put yourself into the habit of looking for the humor. Because so many times, like I always say, the creator has the greatest sense of humor. But are we there to witness it? If we're paying attention to it, then we'll find it. And we'll find that it makes life really so much more amusing.
I love it. And this is a really appropriate conversation because today is actually the eve of the new moon of Aries, and we're moving into one of the most, I would say, intensive months as far as opportunities for spiritual reflection and growth. There's a special attention that the Kabbalists put to the first 12 days of this month. So if you're listening on Monday, the first day is Tuesday, the second day is Wednesday, and so forth. You can go to weeklyenergyboost.com to, right at the top, there'll be a link that to provide you with more information about how to take advantage of these 12 first days of the Kabbalistic month of Aries. There's a lot to learn from and to grow from and to be mindful, because these 12 days have significant impact over the coming year. The astrological calendar begins tomorrow. So, and that's also in conventional astrology. It always begins with the month of Aries. So we're looking at how to infuse these first 12 days of this year which is in turn infusing every single month with extra support, extra energy, extra awareness that we can carry through to all of the months of the year. So I want to invite you to check that out, as well as weeklyenergyboost.com also has information about how you can get in touch with Daniel if you want to look into working with him and what he has happening on his calendar over the next few weeks. Daniel, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
It's
it was
always
delightful.
Delightful. You are a bright light. People feel it, and they're always asking, when are you coming back to do an episode? So we'll have to get you back again soon. As always, Weekly Energy Boost is available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. You can also visit that website I mentioned a minute ago, weeklyenergyboost.com, to find out about what we're talking about on every episode. Look at our archives and click the donate button to support our podcast. We also invite you to rate and review if you haven't already. And of course, most importantly, share this episode and lighten up the entire world. Have a fabulous one. We'll see you next time on the Weekly Energy Boost.
Bye.